company and mandarin at the same time.
So this should be running now.
Okay.
We'll just keep it running, and then we'll flow into it. But yeah, this doesn't really make me nervous at all. It's more just the pressure of everything leading up to it.
In what sense?
Just I like to have my hand in a lot of different projects always. Like there's always things I want to do, but then it's like, what should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? And then I've really narrowed it down lately, and I've got all my essays that I'm writing, and I'm quite far ahead in all of them.
Okay.
In a sense, but now I'm kind of falling behind again. So under the pressure of the second wave and just a combination of all the radio shows starting up and doing that work, and then getting into just like personal life pressure starting to kick in and really cause a massive headache, bringing up old symptoms of just anxiety, depression, and it's like, oh, we're not going back there again. No chance. So it's how do I maintain at this level and still go through all those feelings? Whereas before, it's you could almost say it was no different. It's just the weight I put on those feelings and emotions were just 10 times heavier. I attached to it much more. I didn't get going anywhere. Whereas now I know what I need to do. It's just the frustration of burning out much faster. So I've got a bit more fine tuning to go.
Okay. Do you think it's because you've been through it before that it makes it a little bit easier this time?
Oh yeah, definitely. The resilience is built up, and I've come to terms with a lot of different aspects of it. Built my own sense of boundaries and all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I'm going through the feeling right now. Obviously, different set of events.
Yeah.
What you've got. For me, the set of events is we've now had legislative changes come through. That pretty much my entire business is what we're doing is gone in the next 6 weeks.
Okay. As in gone obsolete.
As in obsolete, we can no longer run what we're doing.
Oh wow! What's the legislation?
Brokers are no longer allowed to facilitate any training. So if it smells like a broker, acts like a broker, whatever, we can't act up on behalf of training organizations anymore. Okay. Which makes it a little bit tricky because we never wanted to become a training organization because, well, we just don't want to be stuck in that world, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Which is, there's two sides of the coin. So the negative is, well, we had the rest of the year plan going, yep, we're going to be financially okay, the business is going to go on quite well, and after that we're going to swap onto something different. What's it now done is kind of kicked our asses into gear and kind of go, we've got 8 groups coming up. So 8 groups of about 15 to 20 people who are all wanting to do our pathway program, try and get into a different career, where we help them, and we will help them through that. But after that, there's no more training running whatsoever through us. I mean, there's one company that still wants to work with us because they think we're not just a broker, we're way more than a broker, and they're happy to do that. But I'm kind of looking at it as a sign. Okay, well, if this is changing and we started putting our focus on what we actually want to do, it's just kind of kicking our asses into gear.
Okay, so just to take a step back, how's the broker system work?
Okay, so how it works is, I guess let me explain what we do first. So what we do is we connect with training organizations, we connect with companies, and then we facilitate all of that together. So let's say you were interested in becoming an aged care worker. You need a qualification to become an aged care worker. I mean, there's a few companies that take you on board, but they're usually not the ones you'd want to recommend. They're quite dodgy. So you got to do your qualification. Now you can go and do a qualification with any other training organizations. They'll give you a piece of paper and you go through it and cool, whatever. But then you're kind of left hanging again. And one of the things you've always wanted to make sure is that education isn't just a piece of paper. It's way more than that. You've just taken your first step into a new career. Let's assist you in actually getting into the career now as well. So what we'll do is we'll facilitate the training. We'll get the classroom in an area that's close to your home. Secondly, then we'll facilitate the work experience for you as well, because you'll need some work experience as well, putting the theory into practice. And then at the end of that, we'll get you into employment. So we've partnered up with 7 or 8 different organizations now which are looking for staff. So that way you can get your qualification, you can get your work experience, and then get straight into employment. But the first portion of it, the training portion, is we broker it. because we work on behalf of training organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And with the new legislative changes, training organizations still
So
won't do it.
they expect the training organizations to find their own clientele.
Absolutely.
They're not going to allow third parties to step in. Why would they make a change like that?
Vet fee help. I don't know if you remember vet fee help.
Okay. So you're kind of overstepping the reliance on the government
Somewhat. I think
welfare. Because I'm using vet fee help for my studies.
So vet fee help back 2 years ago was massively lucrative, and at the same time they were taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
You had brokers coming in selling to people who were just simply not up to the challenge of doing a diploma level course.
Mm-hmm.
And diploma level courses, I'm guessing you would have signed up maybe in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So you now understand standardized pricing of vet fee help. So your course, I'm guesstimating, would cost between $5,000 and $8,000.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, a simple diploma of management on average was about $30,000. So what brokers would do is they would get a whole bunch of lists of people who are on Centrelink on welfare benefits, saying, hey, you sign up with us, we'll give you a free computer.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you only have to pay back once you earn over 52,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Knowing they'll never be able to pay that back.
Mm.
So people on Centrelink go, yeah, I want a free computer. They'll sign up, they'll log in once. The broker gets 30% of that $30,000, $10,000 for signing a person up and giving a computer for $500.
Okay, and they were using the fee help system to fund all that for themselves. Absolutely. And all they had to do was get somebody dependents just to go, okay, that's easy. Okay, so that's why the government wants to get rid of the brokers.
So vet fee help was completely abolished about 2 years ago. Not abolished, they made it so tight, brokers wasn't allowed, this wasn't allowed, sanitized pricing game. They went nuts with it. They went probably a little bit overboard.
Yeah.
But what they wanted to do is kill all the other training organizations which were a little bit dodgy, which were too reliant on vet fee help.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the massive companies now going down, Cruise Australia, etc. They all just kind of went bankrupt.
Yeah.
They couldn't sustain themselves without those sort of pricings anymore.
Yeah.
Now, state funding has come in, which is called Smart and Skilled, which is what we are using, and they're so afraid that something similar will happen that they're now doing the same legislative changes onto it.
Okay.
Which makes no sense, because you're no longer looking at a $30,000 course, you're looking at something that's like $4,000, $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as massive as to begin with. Plus, the payments are staggered based on halfway points, completion payments, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually get paid more if people complete versus just you sign up.
Yeah.
But they're still wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to try and shut down as many training organizations as possible now.
To shut down training organizations?
They think there's too many training organizations out there at the moment.
Okay, there are too many people going around going, I'm certified, I can teach.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting tension between like privatizing all these systems and allowing the free market to reign and all that, but at the same time it's like they still want to monopolize it a bit.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's a free market as long as you're within the big corporations, because we know what they're doing, they're listening to us, we're all in bed together, it'll all work out. Makes it hard for guys like you who come along and want to really give something fresh and new.
Yeah, but that's okay. So we've pretty much got 6 weeks now to build up a brand new business.
Yeah.
And I guess make it sustainable within the next 4 months to be able to provide one of the best services in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, be able to afford 4 or 5 employees.
Yeah.
So I've got 6 weeks to get that organized at that point.
Mm-hmm. So the difference is that you get to now, rather than acting as a broker, you get to create your own organization. Like it's pushing you to that point. It's like, okay, it's time to actually do this.
It's time to step up. Time
That's
to take
cool.
it to the next level.
Yeah, awesome.
Which is incredibly scary.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much work involved. But at the same time, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Awesome. So you feel quite ready for it. You got your passion fueled for it.
I wouldn't say I feel ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the hopelessness sometimes comes in.
It's the weight of it.
Yeah, because I know that if I don't step up to this game, I've got 4 people who are now going to, I guess, not have a wage anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, one of the ladies that works for us, I mean, her daughter just got diagnosed with cerebral palsy.
Mm.
Her son's currently getting some checks in regards to spinal fluid as well for some other diseases.
Yeah.
So there's like, I'm caring about my staff to the point where I'm kind of going, I need to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I look at it and kind of going, wow, there's so much I need to get done right now.
Yeah, it must be quite difficult. Yeah,
it's enjoyable though. It's enjoyable, and it's also overwhelming. Because you understand, the way I look at it, it's a massive challenge, and there's little whispers comes into your mind. Are you good enough for this? Are you sure you're able to do this?
Yep.
And then this other whisper comes into me and kind of goes, you are the only person that I know that can make this happen.
Yeah, there it is. It's a bit of a existential issue, is when you kind of face yourself, and it's that with great power comes great responsibility kind of idea. It's not necessarily an arrogant thought. It's like you look at yourself and you genuinely go, I can do this from the bottom of my heart. I can do this. I can handle this. I know I'm capable. There are a lot of people that will benefit from me doing this. It's not just about me. But at the same time, holy crap, I have to do so much more just to make this happen now.
Yep.
Yeah, it can really put it's a bit of a paradoxical stump in the whole process. Yeah. So how do we overcome that? That's the big question.
That's a very big question. One of the realizations I've had over the last couple of days is actually me time. So, I mean, it's Friday. I've already done my 70 hours this week. I'm working. It's time for me. Like, that's what I thought yesterday. I went, I need me time. I just need to chill and do nothing.
Yeah.
As much as it sounds kind of productive, but I think once you kind of have that me time, you become so much more productive to be able to start.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of different strategies you can do to overcome those as well.
But when you're so in the zone of going forward, and then you come across, like, you feel like you need that me time for 24 hours, but you know that in that 24 hours, you're going to at the same time be anxious because you're just that little bit behind. How do you so compartmentalize that in your mind to just let go of everything?
Well, that's the beauty of it though, because the way I see it is that if you don't have that me time, you start to slow down. I don't know if you realize this, when you start to, I feel this way, when things start to go, I need to get this done, need to get this done, need to get this done, then you might sit there for an hour contemplating what needs to get done, and you don't get any of it done.
Yeah.
But really, if you sat down and got any of them done, you would have been so much more ahead.
It's true.
I call that grey zoning. You're not relaxing, but you're not working. You're in the grey zone. You're kind of just but you're not even relaxing.
And any work that does come out of there is always substandard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I find when I'm in my essay writing zone for uni, it can really become such a block because I get triple frustrated because I know what I'm writing isn't good. And I know that when I'm fresh and in the zone, I don't even have to think twice as much. It's just comes out of complete nowhere. I'm just with it. But then when I enter that gray zone, it's just double the frustration, triple the frustration. When there's so many things on top, it's just becomes a vicious cycle. So it's just a matter of having to, chuck everything out the window for a day and say, you know what, even if I, let's say, lose 2 marks from today, it's better than losing 10 marks down the track.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily even have to lose the 2 marks.
Not necessarily. It's just within the study system. Yeah, it's like by day and.
Well, if you start to fall behind, absolutely. But I think one of the beauties and something I'm going to start doing now is actually start looking ahead and kind of going, this is me time regardless of how I feel. So you don't even come to the point where it becomes a necessity.
Yeah.
Like one of the most beautiful moments I had yesterday, it was a 2-hour meditation.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours, just complete silent meditation. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
I felt so overwhelmed. I wasn't getting anything done. The staff just walked out of the office. They're finished for the day. I'm just going to meditate. I'm going to lock the office doors. I'm just going to meditate in the office. And it was beautiful. I was just like, all right, bring it on now. Bring it on now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I do find that really does help. It's when you hit a really deep meditation, just to stop. It's one of those things, it's like how you feel leading up to an exercise versus after an exercise. It's two completely different people. So there is a bit of a medicine in that practice. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. What do you do when you're feeling overwhelmed?
When I'm feeling overwhelmed, it depends on the kind of feelings that come up. So if it's a lot of my frustrations and angers, that needs to be managed a bit differently because it's a bit more of it's a bit more corrosive. It needs even meditation can be a bit difficult to let it out because it's really high energy in the body, and I tend to be very fiery. Like I burn up really quickly.
Yep.
So I need to move it out. So if I'm in that state, I'll exercise, or I'll just put on some music, maybe some metal music or something, and just dance it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works.
Otherwise, then after I get that out, I then meditate it. Generally meditate or go for a walk or something like that. So yeah, it's I generally use the same kind of tools. Yeah.
How good does it feel once you get it out? And you can sort of refocus again.
Yeah.
And take it head on again.
Yeah. It feels great. Like once I get into that zone, it's but just sometimes it can be quite frustrating that I'll do that, I'll get into that zone and I'll come back, and then slowly it'll come up again. So it's a continual management of the feelings and all that. Yeah. I'm going to turn off the aircon.
All right.
Noise. The first half of it's probably going to have that whooshing sound.
That's all right. It's a learning curve. I saw something really funny though on the way here. I was always looking around. I love watching people anyway. People watching amazes me because I always imagine myself in that situation too, and I kind of laugh at times.
Yeah.
So I'm driving here. I'm at the lights, and a big gust of wind comes. And I look to my left, and there's a guy on his bicycle, and his entire jacket starts to puff up. His pants start to puff up because the wind's so low, and he's nearly falling over.
Yeah.
Like he's not laughing at himself. He's just so serious trying to fight this wind. And he's standing there, and I'm looking at him. He doesn't even realize he's in his own little world right now.
Yeah.
I feel for you, man. And he's just fighting the wind instead of just getting off his bike and walking it. He gets back on it and tries again, and he's nearly falls off it again, and over and over. Like, man, that's determination right there. That is determination.
Yeah, and the focus of that zone, like I'm riding my bike, I'm surviving the wind and all that. Yeah,
it was quite interesting to watch. That's a crack up.
It is. When you can see somebody else is in their own world and how they're thinking a bit differently to how you're thinking. You're just sitting there riding your car, and they're out there, not necessarily stressing out, but they're fighting something. It's a whole different frame of mind of the whole world. It kind of puts you into that perspective of how funny everything's a bit of a joke in the end of the day.
It is.
Yeah, makes us realize how not so serious we can be.
Yeah, who was it that says something like the world's too serious to take it serious?
The worst is...
The world is too serious
to take it serious. The world is too serious to take it serious. It's true. It's I was actually even listening to a Alan Watts podcast where he says something along those lines. He's like, whoever said we had to be serious? I think he was pointing out like how there was some kids being disciplined in a law court or something, and the defendant started sniggering and laughing, and the judge goes like, why are you laughing? This is very serious. And it's while everybody's standing there in their suits and all like suited up and being all serious for this case, and they all have to say things in serious ways because it's the law and this is serious matter, this is serious business, and it's like, why are we being serious? So yeah, it's true. And I think you can that's another way to apply it to what we were just talking about before, is that when you let go of had the stress, you realize you were just being too serious about it. Like, what's the worst? What is really the worst if you fail all of this? Well, a lot of things, but at the same time,
you're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. Like, just trust you can work it out. It's the least you can do.
But the funny thing is, when you start to let go, you'll have all these synchronicities in your life as well.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
I know, that's a whole nother story here. But I think you've had the same. When you start to let go of something that you think you really want, and I don't mean you're letting go of what you want. It's more of you're letting go of that absolute pressure that you have to have something. Whatever that might be. And it could be an emotional state. It could be a product. It could be anything. When you start to let it go, all of a sudden, random things will come. And that'll get you exactly what you wanted to begin with.
It's true. It's true.
It's really, really odd. But it always comes from inside as well. It never comes from the external stuff, because you can't predict it. But once you work on your internal, the external will change.
So then what do you have to let go of?
I don't know what I have to let go of. That's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
If I knew what I had to let go of, it would make things a little bit easier at times.
I find it's a bit of letting go of those things that frustrate you or harm you or make you anxious, and re-injecting it with an acceptance or in essence a love of just being, a love of yourself, a love of just being in the moment, and just that whole like kindness and all that kind of stuff. If you just change your frame of mind to that and not focus on all the problems you have, then that's when I find the synchronicities most line up. Because what really defines a synchronicity? Like, what are we're only going to notice a synchronicity if it benefits us. That's right. True. Otherwise, why would you notice something that's not benefiting you? Maybe you're just synchronizing all this shit that's happening to you because you're focusing on that shit. But once you change it to the positive, you're synchronizing just good stuff. So I guess it's always in sync. It's just how it gives us a symbolic understanding of what it means to be in that positive state.
Yeah. I'll give you sort of a perfect example. Susie had one the other day, and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. So she's at the coffee store, purchases herself the coffee, drinks it, and she doesn't like the coffee. We've all had this sort of event before. You're not happy with the coffee, and there's usually two ways of dealing with it. There's the one way where you're kind of just accepting it, whatever, and you keep going. That's usually me. I'm like, nah, I can't be bothered going back. It's just whatever. Yeah. Or the other one's going, hey, could you make me I'm not happy with this. And she had this internal realization that she always just goes with whatever, and maybe she should stand up for what she actually thinks. So she walks up, gets it exchanged, and it's like this split moment there where she changes everything, right? Or it takes a theory into reality, and the lady behind it apologizes. Anyways, gets a new coffee, and while she's waiting for a new coffee, she's currently been looking for sort of just a part-time job that she can get a couple of hours just to kind of just up her pay a little bit. While she's waiting, she sees a notice board. On the notice board is a ad for someone looking for 5 hours a week. Perfect for her. She calls them up, says, yep, come on in, comes in the same day for an interview, gets a coffee, beautifully made, and looks like she's going to get the job this weekend. Yeah. It's just those little events that if she didn't go up to begin with, she wouldn't have received what she wanted to receive.
In this case, she was being kind to herself.
Yeah.
Rather than letting herself down in a sense. Yeah. It's amazing how those situations happen like that. And they happen all the time once you kind of step into that realm of just positive action, I guess. That's maybe one way to put it. I'm assuming that's how you put it in your coaching terms.
I could have just you being you.
You being you. It's true. That's true.
So if you just be who you really are versus a facade of what you've wanted other people, or what other people wanted you to be at any point, or you think other people wanted you to be, all of a sudden you come into this completely different realm. Things would start to happen for you. I mean, they always are happening for you anyway, is the way I see it. Yeah. But it's just the frequency just increases dramatically.
Yeah. It's how you tap into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really difficult place to step into and be in all the time. It's because you're always faced with that element of suffering. We've all got that kind of internal suffering process, I guess, that might be relations to your past, things that have happened to you. It's you can look at it both emotionally and just scientifically, in the sense of like, okay, you hurt yourself doing something, you're not going to do it again. But we live in such a complex social system that you start to now deal with emotions. So somebody fronted you. Are they going to front you again? And will people in that situation front you again? Will you be embarrassed in this situation again? Will you do that again? And it's all tied up into the emotional realm. And so I find those start to attach to everything that you're trying to do, even when you're trying to be yourself. It's the pain of those feelings and situations that kind of tie in and get in the way.
Yep. Would you say, I guess in a simple format, it's the emotion you attach to an event?
Yes. It's not always the emotion that you want to attach to.
Oh no, event. I didn't say.
But yes, there's an emotion attaching to the event, so you might not be conscious of it, and you might be conscious of it, but it's hard to manage it.
Yep.
Let's say, Because I think that's what usually comes up in those situations where you feel that stuckness, that difficulty to move forward is your brain starts to justify so many different reasons not to move forward, and it hits you where it hurts to do so. And when external circumstances jump in, it can amplify that.
Absolutely.
10 times more. So when you're trying to catch on to that positive synchronicity, there's something also, an internal force that you're trying to catch before it steps in and really throws you off.
Do you think that as soon as you're trying to catch it, your synchronicity falls off? Because now you're doing it with an agenda?
Potentially. I think that's a very good way to look at it. Yeah. I could definitely think about that in the sense that it's definitely one way of looking at it.
Because as soon as you start to catch something, your agenda changes. You're not being who you are anymore. Or just allowing things to flow freely.
Yeah, not in the flow anymore.
Because you're holding on to something now. Even if it's a positive thing that you're trying to hold on to, you're still trying to hold on to something. So when you've got some sort of agenda coming up, you're just like, yes, I love that state. You start chasing that state.
Yeah.
You can't achieve that state. It's like trying to achieve a state of enlightenment. You can't achieve a state of enlightenment if you're trying to achieve it.
Yeah, you can only be that state.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed, that each time I run into that situation, the more and more conscious I become of all the triggers and all the everything that slows me down, the more I start to realize how much time I'm actually wasting holding on to something. It's like there's more of this shift, because now you know what it feels like to be in that zone, and you know what it feels like to be run by something else that's not you in that zone. So when you start running on that something else, which is all your pains, your frustrations, this internal energy you're trying to chase but you can never really chase, it becomes easier to make that flip the more you catch on to it, the more you understand that you're just wasting your time being there. It's nothing that you need to do, it's something that you just be. Something you just be, and all those emotions and frustrations and all that will flow through it. And if you need to stop, then just stop, but make it a you time, make it a rest time.
And there's a grey zoning happening now.
Yeah. True that. It all ties in together.
It does. It's always taking a theory and taking it into reality as well. I think there is, you can look at it internally and try and find something, but there's also external sort of indicators you can look at. If you're sitting down writing an essay and you're an hour in and you haven't written anything because you're thinking about everything you need to write, that's an external indicator. Get away. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you're sitting down and you can't figure out what to do next, that's another one of those. Are your grey zones? Get rid of them. So
don't feel like you have to sit there and push through it.
Nope.
It's better to just do something else, completely different.
Do something relaxing.
Yeah.
But do something relaxing, not Facebook relaxing.
Yeah. Don't waste time, in a sense.
Yeah. Because we all do this. We have our phones, we have internet. You might go on Reddit, you might go on Facebook, whatever your social media or whatever fix it. Tell me anyone who goes on Facebook for half an hour and feels relaxed out at the end of it. It doesn't work.
No.
Because you're not relaxed.
No.
You're reading, and then you may, depending on what kind of triggers you're looking for, you're going, oh, look at my friends are having fun.
Yep.
Because nobody ever puts down having a shit day.
Yep.
Or you can look at new products. All of a sudden you want a new product. That product's really cool. I want that product. And because Facebook's algorithms are so phenomenal, it's usually the products you want anyway.
Yeah.
So after half an hour, you're kind of going, oh, I haven't changed my state whatsoever. I'm kind of just still the same thing. Sit down for half an hour in a chair with absolutely nothing and just your own thoughts.
Yeah.
And actually relax your mind, and you feel completely different.
Yeah, it's true. Something I found that was the best for me in the past. Actually, the past 2 weeks leading up to this week was the most. I was quite in the zone. Let's put it that way. And I found, even though I found I was falling off a little bit, I found something that really helped me bring that all back together was to have a sauna session each day. And it's winter at the moment, and even though Australian winter isn't that cold, and we're having a pretty good winter, it's still cold enough to step outside and get in the sauna. But the point is, like, I made even that became a like a negative stop. So you see, that's can be the difficult thing when you're when depressive or anxious forces hit you. Hit somebody to that extent, where it extends to absolutely everything, and it's a whole matter of changing entire frame of thought. So I would I enjoy pushing myself to physical limits. So I thought, okay, that's something I can handle. I step over that limit. I get in the sauna, I meditate, and I make sure I push through the heat and all the anxiety coming out telling me to get out because now it's getting too hot. I push through all that, and I find by the end of that, I've gone through an entire exercise of calming my mind, calming my system, calming everything down, and I step out a completely different person. And I've stopped everything, I've forgotten everything. There's something else to focus on. Like my body's heating up and dying unless I think about, like, I get on top of this for a second. So it's a great exercise, and I think it applies to anything. I just find the sauna is a bit of a good kick up the ass, but it applies to everything.
Absolutely, it's just you need to find something that works for you.
Yeah, true that.
For you, it's sauna. For me, it's it changes. So it depends on what I feel like. For example, I play soccer 3 times a week now. It does marvelous things. Yeah, because I've got that added responsibility of going, shit, there's like 20 people on my soccer team. If I don't rock up, man, I'm gonna let them down as well. Yeah, and if you're not in the zone in soccer, they're going to let you know. Yeah. They're going to kick your ass. Yeah. So that kind of works for me. Meditation works brilliantly for me as well. Morning habits are incredibly important as well. I realized that if I start to go down downward slump, I start to have a look at my morning habits. And there's this emotional flooding exercise that I do. When I start feeling myself going in a slump, emotional flooding comes back in. Yeah. So every morning I'll sit there for 10 minutes before I do anything. So I get up, I might have a shower first, because just wake up a little bit, and then do an emotional flooding exercise. Yeah. Where you start thinking about things you're grateful for. You just putting yourself back in those moments, etc. A couple of things I was thinking about there is, what's the worst situations I've ever gone through in my life? Am I still here? Yeah. Man, I can achieve anything. There's nothing stopping me. Yeah. Why am I stressed about this? It's fine. Let's take on the day now. And it sets up the day. Every single time. Because you can't really be in a bad space of mind if you're feeling gratitude there for everything. It's cool though. But the thing is, what happens is that you start to get on that gratitude train, all of a sudden that drops off, and then anxiety. Yeah, you get the expectation for the gratitude starts to. Yeah. It like eats its own tail eventually, and then you kind of need to start again. That's something I find I struggle with a lot. Is I can get on the gratitude train, and I'll do that for like every morning. I'll like I did that thing. I've seen it a lot. Like you journal the evening entry the night before. Like you say what I was thankful for today, like what went well today, you know, and what am I going to do tomorrow to do even more or better. And the next morning you wake up and you say what I'm grateful for, and then like what I'm excited to get going with today. But I find that eventually I slow down on it. It's hard to maintain, and it stops and catches up. So what are you doing at each point that you need to recycle, I guess? I don't know. I change it up. I try and change it up. Yeah. I think it's the only way to do it. Change it up. And actually, I like that alt way better. Alt way is a bit more comfortable. Let's go with the alt way again. And all of a sudden, the alt way is reinvigorated again. Yeah. So you have like 3-4 different systems that you use, and you essentially alternate between all of them. Yeah. The one that is always the biggest shock: cold shower in the morning. Yeah. just hands down, cold shower in the morning. You know, you prep yourself. You warm up the shower first, is what I do, and then I kind of go, okay, I'm in the desert. It's really hot. I see a nice little oasis, and what I want to do is I want to jump in, and it's going to be ice cold water. Yeah. And then I turn the hot water off for 3 seconds entirely. I'm like, breathe through it. Oh, it's not too bad. I'm in the oasis. Yeah. I'm in the oasis. Nope, I'm in my bathroom. Okay, yep, turn the heat back on. Yeah. But after that, I'm good. Yeah. Because it shocks your mind. It kicks you up. It's true. It's true. I find for me, it's I want like the double shock.
I don't heat up anything. I don't prep anything. I just
Oh.
like, I'm out of bed, throw everything off, straight to the shower. And I already start going, okay, pump. I start jumping around, and I just don't even think about it. Close my eyes and turn on the cold water and just let it run. And then just like, I don't know, the most profound things come out of me at that point.
They do.
And then, yeah, within 20 seconds, you calm down, you walk out, and you feel absolutely amazing.
You do.
Yeah.
It's weird how such a small little shock for 20 seconds can make a huge difference to your entire day.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you had that every single morning, how do you think you'd feel every single day?
Yeah, it sets the tone of your day.
Yeah.
Very true.
And I think the one beauty that I've always enjoyed about the cold showers, it's you getting control of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a lot of other activities where you can kind of gain control complete of your mind, where you're like, no, I'm in charge of my mind, and I'm in charge of my life, and I'm in charge of how I feel.
Yeah.
So, buddy, you are going through this cold water. I know you don't like it, but you're going to do it.
Yeah. It's the same concept I go through going into the sauna. It's just on the other end of the temperature spectrum, but I do the same thing. It's like for the morning, I wake myself up with the cold shower. And then by the afternoon, I start feeling the midday slump. And then I'll get into the sauna. So I'll stop all the morning work that I've done, because I pretty much drained my brain by 12, 1 or 2 o'clock. And then I start getting like that. I don't know, I feel like maybe a lot of other people get this like after lunch or something. It's typical with like desk jobs and that kind of stuff. You start to get tired. You've been using your brain all morning. You've done all your calls, etc., etc. And then I'll kick it back up with a sauna or a training or exercise or something. It completely shifts the whole energy system.
It does.
And so the other one gets a break. You're still awake. You're still doing something. Then you come back, and then you suddenly realize that the brain is working again.
It's working again.
See, that's the best routine I had. I was getting everything done. I felt comfortable by the time I got to sleep. It was I could actually sleep.
Yep.
But then as soon as like external incidents is kind of out of
You
your
got a
control,
surprise.
throw that off.
You got a
I
surprise.
got a massive surprise. And then the surprise threw me off more than I thought it would. And so it's a matter of scrambling to get back together. The other thing I find, though, is that usually that also happens. The surprise is when you've been suppressing something for so long. Or it's maybe you haven't, and maybe in some strange divine sense, it just happens to be now's the time where you're best poised to learn from whatever
Absolutely.
that issue is.
I think so. I think it's been prepping you for whatever's happening.
Yeah, it's true that.
It does happen that way. It happens really, really closely. It's like you've got everything aligned, and all of a sudden, everything will just go whoop, and the entire world changes within a space of 2 days.
Yeah.
It's not just one event. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
Shit.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
what do I do? And now you're in a completely different sense, but you're at a better, like you said, a better situation than you ever were before to be able to handle with it. Now it's time for you to step up.
Yeah.
And, you've preached all these things that you wanted to do over the last sort of 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks that you're like, yep, I've got everything down. Do you really? It's like a test. Do you really have everything down? Do you really don't want this? Do you really want to continue being that type of person? You're going to get checked now. And you can get through it at the other end. You're going to become way better as well.
Yep. It's definitely, it's always a test. It's always a test. I think, you don't have to be a believer in God or anything like that. It's just an aspect of being you, I guess, is that you're always going to test yourself. All these things have meaning. All these things have purpose. If you attribute that, it's nothing to do with believing in a higher power. It's just believing in yourself as the higher power.
Absolutely.
You are always going to test yourself. The world is always going to test you, and you can always step up to that. And it may be synchronous in a divine sense, or it may just be that that's what you happen to be doing at the time, and the laws of physics, nature, positive, negative energies, whatever it is, all conjoin at that time, depending on however you want to play it.
Have you realized, though, that the problems you face or your challenges you face, I call them challenges more than problems, because I think those surprises, I call them challenges.
Yeah.
It's a better word. Once you start rephrasing it, they get bigger every time. So, for example, the problems or challenges that you're going through now, you're going to look back in 3 to 6 months' time and go, was that it?
Yeah.
And then a new surprise is going to come. And it's going to be bigger than the one you've had previously.
Yeah.
And then 6 months from there on, a year from there on, you'll have something bigger even then. And continuously be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And it's like when you start following that path that you're supposed to follow, it's when the challenges get larger.
Yeah.
Because the outcomes get larger too.
Yeah.
And those outcomes can be anywhere. It can be relationship-wise, it can be spiritual-wise, it can be business-wise. Take it anywhere. But the challenges become larger. Because the only way you're ever going to be happy is when you progress, yeah?
Yeah.
It's very, I'm not saying it's hard, but human nature, we always want more.
Yeah.
And I don't mean in a materialistic world, well, that's an easy way to talk about. You can look at the spiritual,
Yeah.
your relationships.
I don't think it's necessarily, we want more in terms of accumulating things. I think accumulating things is just one way it goes, but I think it's all in part of the human curiosity to explore our nature, to explore our being. Materialism is just one way to go about it in terms of I've got to be bigger and better in that sense. I think it's just more always exploring some new experience.
It's progress.
Yeah, progress.
And through progress, bigger challenges are going to come up. And I think what usually tends to happen is, especially with people who are a little bit depressed, they don't progress anymore.
And they're depressed because they're not progressing.
Absolutely. So their rules of what they think their life should have been is absolutely not where it is right now.
Yeah.
And they either A, have to accept where they are and change their rules of how they think their life's going to look. But if it's something that they can't change, and there's things you can't change. For example, if you want to be a pro athlete, but you're 40 years old, chances are you're probably not going to become a pro athlete in one of the major sports. Maybe curling, go for it. Or bowling, or 10-pin bowling, whatever. Sure you can. But if you look at some of the major international sports, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you need to accept that. Otherwise, you're going to be depressed for life.
Yeah. So be realistic as well.
Yeah, it's got to be changeable. But if you come out and go, I'm going to change the world in this format, or I want to, be able to coach 100,000 people at a seminar and be able to inspire every single one of those. That may seem like it's an impossible feat, but it's not impossible. Those are things that are realistic. Massive goal, which I think is phenomenal.
Yep.
But the larger your goal is, the more progress you're going to have. Right. And sometimes it can be as simple as I just want peace within myself and be able to share that with others. That is a massive goal as well. But if you're not working towards those goals, you're going to be depressed. And one of the things that I've seen so many times is when people get into jobs and they have these amazing dreams.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing dreams. And you look at the job and you kind of go, your job does not reflect your dream whatsoever. Are you working on outside of your job towards your dream? No. And you start, okay, you've got a dream, the view of what you wanted your world to be when you were growing up. You're not taking any active steps towards there. You're in a job that's not getting you there. And the longer you're in a job, you feel more and more stuck there because you're becoming complacent and comfortable with it. And you get more and more depressed. But you would never classify yourself as depressed. So you don't call yourself depressed. You call yourself as, I'm comfortable, it's okay, life is good. And you become happy with being complacent. Which I don't think is a very nice place to be either. Yep. It's like this false sense of depression. You're not really depressed, but not really happy either. Kind of go, dude, you need to shake it up. You need to make some massive action now. You need to change something in your life ASAP. And once people take those leaps, I think that's when they start to grow profoundly. They start to be happier than they ever have been in their life. And it's absolutely phenomenal to see. I love seeing that. I don't know. Have you seen something like that before as well?
Well, yeah, I have seen it a few times. My trail of thought was kind of running off a bit differently, and I was thinking about how people's dreams in that moment, and they get complacent as well. But it's also, I think, the weight we might put on those dreams. I think it's quite a complex area, but it's like somebody. Maybe if I put it this way, how do you define those dreams, right? You're somebody sitting there at your desk, and you've got your 9-to-5 job, and you don't like that job, and you have some other dream of something you want to do. Does it always have to be tied to a monetary gain? Firstly,
no, it does not.
That's what I was trying to get at. is that does the dream always have to be this aspirational thing, or is it just this concept of growing, so that you have somebody in that job? It doesn't mean that they necessarily need to change their job. It's more, you're depressed, you're not growing anymore. Where are you not growing? So some people might attribute all their problems to not enjoying their job, but they might actually realize that they're not enjoying their job. They might be content, complacent, but they're not enjoying it because they're not adding value to their life. Maybe their perspective of what they're doing. They thought they wanted to be a lawyer, and they got stuck as just the temp. They can't get past that. They don't know why they can't get past it. Maybe once they chase what they wanted to do, which can go alongside their job, they find that they suddenly become that lawyer. So I think, it's I just kind of wanted to try find that distinction a little bit.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be monetary whatsoever. I mean, you can have a goal that could be, I want to be a great parent. I want to be a great housewife. I mean, nowadays we make fun of housewives, but there's so much work that goes into being a great parent. I mean, we saw that, 100 years ago, from keeping the house perfect, running after 5 kids, whatever. That is a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
Right. Well, some people may laugh at that now, but it can be a housewife, houseman, whichever, doesn't matter. That's a realistic and idealistic goal as well that you can have. That could be your view of the world and what your dreams are. It doesn't have to be aspirations that you want to do something for the world. Sure, that's it. Go for it. You need to go after that. It can be something as that.
Yeah.
Because that's what you value. And in those circumstances, you'll find the people who are then working in a 9-to-5 come home and do everything, blah blah blah. They won't be depressed though, because they'll see constant progress anyways within something that they value. They might see, little Johnny's now going to school, helping with homework, and that's what they absolutely love doing. No problem with that.
So then, what's wrong these days that so many people don't necessarily hold that value anymore? So what's happening in the world today that I think there's become a bit of a shift in our in how we view our world symbolically, like the family unit. What does that mean anymore? So here you have people placing value on that, and that worked for a while, but then how come so many divorces are still occurring? Right? So that's ideal, right? For our system and everybody involved, right? Yep. You have your 9-to-5 job, and then you go home to your family, and you do your family thing. It gives you value, meaning. You've got your family, then you go back to work. So why is it still a problem? What's going on? Why are we losing that value, and what's shifting around?
I wouldn't say we're losing the value. I think we see the value. We see what we're looking for, right? So if we're looking for that value that it's losing, we'll find it. I think there's still a lot of families that probably have that value. It's
shifting.
It is shifting.
The way we view community is shifting. I think
it's become an I life in a way. I mean, think of this is the best way to put it. It's not just your community and your family. It goes from everything. We go on Facebook where we only see things that we ever like. Just think about this for a second. We only go in circles with people who have similar views of ours. We only get the products that are going to the things that we want. We only see the things that we want. So the entire world becomes so small that we no longer go out and see other communities that buy anymore. We only surround ourselves with people who are like-minded, with the same views, with the same religious affiliations, with the same political affiliations. How do you expect to expand somebody's mind in regards to community? Community isn't just, hey, I'm going to only hang out with the people that exactly like me. It's kind of, hey, we're kind of all in this together, and I respect that you've got a different mindset, and I respect you've got a different political view on things. But you're still part of the community. And technology has driven us into such a specific point of view now where we only see what's specific to us. Even Google. If I type something into Google and you type something into Google, we're going to get completely different results. Isn't that funny? And it'll reaffirm our beliefs in whatever it is. So we never have a belief check. And I think that in itself completely, it makes us a very I view world. Because we never get told off. We never get told we're wrong. We never go, hey, double check that for a second. Because the only people we're surrounded by, the only things that we see on Google, Facebook, any social media, any search engine, are things that confirm with our beliefs.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that's undermining our ability to connect to those in our family in an honest way? So like that's the thing that's very interesting, is that I think traditionally, when like I'd look at my grandparents, they argue all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're at each other's throats, and you think, how could these two people be married in a modern world?
Mm-hmm.
But then their mentality is they stuck through it. They worked together because there was no other option. They couldn't just go to Tinder and find the swipe that matches them.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's been a whole shift in values. And I think we're in a very interesting time, how you can have somebody in that at that desk, have a family home, and still be, and have everything that you think they want, and still be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes that kind of question: is have we accidentally opened Pandora's box with this newfound freedom that the internet brings us, and all this kind of stuff, or has it been programmed into us and accidentally, through consuming all this stuff, we've created more wants than needs?
It's
how's it psychologically affected all of us?
Oh, I can't even.
What's going on here?
Well, I can't even explain what's going on. I think one of the key points is listening.
Mm-hmm.
I know it comes back to the basic things, listening. If we constantly get confirmation of what we seek, of what we believe, we constantly believe, our own personality or personal views never get questioned, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And on a human basis, we don't like that anyway. If we start talking about our values, and our values might be a little bit different, and I question you on your values, you probably get somewhat defensive. We all do.
Yep.
Now, somebody does that, and you go, what the hell just happened? Back in the day, that may have been a normal thing, because we all have different views anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that on a constant basis. It checks your own views on things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that anymore. So when do you ever have to question yourself? You don't. I go on Facebook, and I see everything that I believe in. Oh, cool. This makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I go on Google, I'll write down whatever question I'll write down. What's the best political party? It'll give me whatever political party I have an affiliation with.
Mm-hmm.
Same as you, we'll get a completely different response. And we never get our own personality checked. Our own personal views never get checked on anything. Ever.
The thing I find though is that what that does is because you don't get to build the resiliency of finding all those checks, is that when something goes wrong, you've never been given that hit to your identity.
Mm-hmm.
So everything you've built is standing on very weak foundation because you haven't built it up necessarily. It's been affirmed for you.
Mm-hmm.
You never had to go anywhere else.
Yep.
You never had to grow internally.
Yep.
Had to build it up. Yeah, I think that is a huge, very interesting concept.
So how do you think you're gonna feel if it's never been checked and all of a sudden somebody checks it for you?
There's two ways to go.
I know there's two ways. Well, emotionally, how do you feel if it's never been done before? How do you think a person will feel? You've never had your identity checked.
If it's never been checked before, you're gonna feel like your world is crumbling apart around you.
And how does that? What emotions come out?
What emotions come out is it depends on how honest you are with yourself. So if you, there's two different ways you can go about it. Like I was saying, is you can project it onto the other person because you can't handle the pain. So therefore, you've done nothing wrong. You've got all the justifications in the world for why you've done something right, and you can delude yourself to say that there is a flying pink elephant right in front of you, and that is why you tripped.
Yep.
You can delude yourself to that point if you want.
Yep.
But we live in a system where, because everything is so easily affirmed, it's very easy to justify yourself. Very easy, because you've got at least another 20 idiots or geniuses that are backing you up. Because you might be right or wrong, but if you're wrong, then you've got a bunch of idiots backing you up. If you're right, you've got a bunch of geniuses backing you up. It doesn't matter. You got backed up. It affirms you just enough. It legitimizes you. Yeah, so I feel like we are kind of living in a bit of a contradiction now where you're having people who are free but aren't looking at things objectively, despite claiming to look at things objectively because they are free, to people who are actually looking inward, looking at themselves, realizing their own contradictions, and then coming out
fixing it,
being honest and authentic. And so the world's been kind of split apart between people who reflect this like pop culture values. You know, like the super ego has just shifted. It's no longer this authority. It's more like a status, a cultural status. It's like you affirm the cultural status, therefore you belong. And then on the other hand, you have a bunch of people who don't live up to that cultural status, who aren't playing along because they've decided to question themselves. And so I feel like there's like a culture war going on. And then there's all the victims, in a sense, like the collateral damage is, you know, your family values, your home values, your sense of sense, and all this sense of dignity, all these kinds of things where, you know, I'm not saying it's bad to be hedonistic. I'm just saying that there are eventual consequences. Like it's harder to look after a family with kids and respecting, respecting the mother of these kids and all that when you're running around sleeping with a bunch of other women. That doesn't necessarily mean it's, you know, that we need to be monogamous. It's not about that. It's that we've gone from one system where the family unit and your stability is based on that. And the kids are only going to be seeing things in terms of their survival. So they don't care whether you're polyamorous, monogamous, all that kind of stuff. They don't care. But what needs to shift is how we relate to all those things. And right now you've got a separation between those two systems. I don't know if I'm using the example too well. I don't know if it's fully making sense. But yeah, I do feel like there's become there's a clash in values where the system is trying to catch up for it to make sense.
Has it ever happened before in the last 100 years?
What happened before?
Anything where you think that the society was in a similar stance where values were going through a massive shift?
I think it happens all the time.
Ever to this extent?
Ever to this extent? I think it's never been in such a cultural level. Like we've been living under hundreds of years of a particular oppressive system where it's like that hierarchical human dominant system, which makes it makes sense. We are hierarchical creatures. Like the patriarchy and the matriarchy is inherent in that whole system. It's dominance based. But I think now what we're doing is, because we're now, you know, the world's trying to be more loving in a way, with that becomes a particular force of freedom that comes about that. But you can't negate, just because you're being free, positive and loving now, you can't negate all that shadowy stuff that's behind all of it, all those psychological issues, all the things that you're not accounting for. Because in that system of order and oppression and hierarchy comes order. Like that's how order gets created. When you throw that order off, you need to reestablish a new hierarchy. It doesn't matter if everybody's loving each other. Like you can have a hierarchy and everybody's benefiting. That's how like tribal societies used to work. There was a hierarchy. There was a unit behind that. There were particular values. It was very restrictive. That's how it worked, but they survived. They needed to survive. It's part of survival. If you want to be, you know, we live in a paradox. Like there's always a tension between the two, between getting to live free and bringing things into order. To bring things into order, you need to control, dominate. That's the way of, it's the nature of control.
Okay.
But your intention, how you dominate, what you bring out of it, the outcome, that's where the values change and shift. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is the decisions you make and all that is where you bring into a better alignment, and the decisions have taken a consideration of both those ideas.
Okay. Would you say it's similar to the 60s?
Right now, yeah. I think what happens is dominance structures like to dominate. They like to control.
Mm-hmm.
Once something comes in that forces them to lose their grip, they get a tighter hold.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happened when they started getting a bit too free, they needed to find something to fight. So Vietnam War comes along.
Mm-hmm.
The war on drugs comes along as well, because that was like the hippie fuel.
Yep.
So you hit them where it hurts, shut it down, and obviously you repress your shadow. That doesn't mean those politicians aren't taking those drugs as well and having their own parties.
Oh no, of course not.
The difference is that it's not the parties that they want.
Yeah.
They're not the bosses at those parties. They're not the cool kids in town. So get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there's always a bit of a war. It's not whether it's good or evil. It's just like positive, negative forces always playing around.
Would you say it's positive or negative, or just different values? Because I don't see it as positive or negative. I only see it as positive and negative if you start to align yourself with one or the other.
That's true, but the way I want to put it, the way I'm trying to explain it is like you can destroy or you can create. Positive nature, I'm not attributing any right or wrong to the positive. It's just like in electricity. There's a positive neutron and a negative electron. And just they are forces in themselves that exist together to make that whole system. So I'm saying that, these positive constructive forces are in tension with destructive negative forces. What some values might attribute to one of those might differ. Like some of them might be in a bit of a gray area, or it depends on how you use them. Mm-hmm. But I do think there are certain ways of being, because we are still constrained to this environment. Mm-hmm. We have to play within its boundaries a little bit. We can't just decide that the tree is no longer, that the sky is no longer blue. Mm-hmm. We can't just decide that because we have this consensus that it's blue. And I understand people will come along and go, what about the colorblind? It's all subjective, right? It's like, that's true, but that doesn't change that the sky has got these colors and all that kind of stuff, and that our general perception, it's like, is chemically and all that, is now making a blue sky. It doesn't change any of that. That all still exists. So what I'm saying is that there is a positive force and that there's a construction around that. It's just like a law of nature.
Okay. I've just never seen it as positive or negative, regardless.
Yeah.
Even destructive was positive to begin with.
Destruction can be positive. See, that's where it's like maybe the words I'm using are necessarily, destruction can go in a positive direction, but it has to first destroy before it becomes positive.
Which is what the positive has to do too. It has to destruct the destructive to become positive.
So of course there's always going to be a balance between the two. And that's why it's like when we see our society going in that direction, it's going down a negative direction. That's what I mean by I'm not attributing right or wrong to the negative or positive. It's just a negative force of destruction and a positive force of construction. So it's nothing to do. I'm not attributing any value to them. It just is. Chaos tends to be in the realm of the negative. Order tends to be in the realm of the positive.
Mm-hmm. But they always cancel each other out, yeah.
And they cancel each other out. So yeah, I'm not placing any moral right or wrong. I'm taking ethics out of it completely. Yeah. But what I do think though is that humans are in the balance of the two. We make things work by being a balance. Mm-hmm. So when you have a society that's too far in one direction, then it's hard to bring it back to equilibrium.
Would you say it's hard, or just it takes a little bit of time?
Takes a little bit of time. Takes a little bit of time.
If you look at history, whenever it's gone really fun one way, it always gets slapped back into the other. It always does.
Yeah. It's true. But I don't want a lot of bloodshed.
Well,
you know?
Yeah, that usually comes with it.
So that's what I mean by like, let's not go too far off equilibrium. Let's go just far enough so that we can keep growing, we can keep learning things, we can keep exploring things. Yeah, I think it's always going to shift. There's no right or wrong, but I think there are some things that are more right than they are wrong, and some things that are more wrong than are right. And that's just me being idealistic about it and starting to attribute values. But it's what I believe. Otherwise, you'd be stuck in that nihilistic state of hopelessness, which is just that's you want to be an optimistic nihilist.
Okay.
So you want to be both positive and negative, understanding that shit does suck, but you can do something about it. And
Absolutely.
It might suck for a bit, but then you're going to do something about it. So yeah, tying that all back to that person who seems to have everything but doesn't have everything. What I'm curious is how much is the society developing that? How much has that been a like a pathological state that's been created, or is it something that needs to happen for us to find our dreams, or we it's all part of the process of the shift?
It's all part of the process, and it's a process you need to go through a shift. But it happens for people at various ages. Okay, you have some people who hit it at 15, which is quite rare, but it happens. And you see some of these guys at 15, and by the age of 21, they've changed the world in one way or another. Yeah, in a positive, a positive way. Yeah. Or however they wanted to change it and shift it, and they look quite happy, and they're constantly moving, they're doing whatever they want to do, and they're active, and they're progressing, and their goals become larger, whatever it is. You get some people who don't hit it till they're 70. There was one individual I was working with actually. I spoke to him at the age of 68 I think it was. We caught up at a cafe, we were having a chat. And he goes, "Martin, there's something weird." I go, "Okay, tell me about it." I'm thinking that I can pick up a lot of knowledge from this 68-year-old. I'm like, this guy's got nearly 3 times the amount of life, or twice as much life lessons as what I would have thought, right? And he goes, "There's something happened to me over probably the last year. There was one particular event. My wife passed away 2 years ago, and it was quite a depressive state, etc. My kids have moved out. I'm kind of by myself now. I have a girlfriend. But that wasn't really it. There was a single conversation I had while I was working in a nursing home. And there were these 2 85, 86-year-olds he was caring for. And he goes, "Come on, you got to get to the table. We're going to have our dinner together with everyone. They all have dinner together." And they said, "No, we don't want to. We don't want to sit next to those guys over there. They're too old for us." Mm-hmm. And he goes, "How can these guys say they're too old for when the guys that were sitting at the table were way younger than them?" Mm-hmm. And started making him question things. He goes, too old. Oh, it's just a number. And then all of a sudden he broke out, like that created some sort of fear, some sort of manifested something within himself that all of a sudden he broke through and goes, "You know what? I've just realized that I was living in this boxed in world, doing whatever I thought I was doing, and all of a sudden I shifted my entire life." Mm-hmm. Okay, what did you do? I got a different job. I started working on all these projects in regards to youth work and whatnot, and I have more energy now in my life than I did in my 20s, my 30s. He goes, "It's just like I've woken up. I just go, holy shit, I've got energy of life right now. I've never had this before." Because are there other people like this out there? I'm like, absolutely. You got to just keep on looking. There's so many of us around that are actually enjoying what they're doing, and they enjoy life. You just need to find them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a process that happens, but you can't have the process if you've never had pain. Mm-hmm. You need to go through pain in one way or another to have the contrast of this is how bad things can get. Mm-hmm. So you can start to appreciate everything you're doing and going, I'm not confined by whatever limits I have. I can do whatever I want to in any way, shape or form, and I'm going to achieve it. And that's when you start getting this thirst, this lust for life. Yeah. So I do think it's sort of something that happens. I think Facebook and whatnot kind of delays it a little bit. Mm-hmm. While at the same time, for some, it might actually trigger it as well. Mm-hmm. If you see your friends always having these amazing, positive activities. I mean, if you've got 500 friends on Facebook, which is I'd say is the average.
Mm-hmm.
At least one person's doing something nice every day.
Yeah.
Which means you have at least one news story where you feel shit because
Mm-hmm.
you're comparing your life where you're going to 9 to 5 and they're sipping cocktails on some island.
Yeah.
Then the next week somebody else is. I mean, out of 500 people, of course there are. There's always
Mhm.
going to be that chance. And eventually you might break out and that might be enough pain for you to kind of go, ooh, I don't want to do what I do anymore because I never get to do that.
Yeah.
And then that's when the process starts.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that shift going, I don't want to do whatever I've been doing. I need to do what I want to do to be able to have. And that's when people kind of get a little bit stuck.
Mm-hmm. Comes down to the responsibility of the individual to actually step up and do something about it, do something about themselves, and to go through with that. I think that's what becomes difficult for some people because they've never faced that pain and they've always had. And in these days, they have so many different ways to legitimize why they shouldn't be in pain,
Mm-hmm.
to justify everything, that they never actually get to a point of growth.
Yep.
And so you have a bunch of people running around not following their dreams because it's always okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then building a whole illusion, which I might refer to as the current pop culture stream,
Yep, if you want.
to justify why they are
Mm-hmm.
powerful and all good and doing fine, even
Mhm.
though deep inside you can read between the lines almost.
Absolutely. But that's the kind of space that I like being in, talking to people in.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that if you have a chat with them and have the right conversation with them,
Mm-hmm.
you get them out of their head because you know exactly where they're at because you've been there before and go, let me help you take some action.
Mm-hmm.
And once you take action, things will flourish.
But I find there's also there's two kinds of people that come out of that. People who resist heavily,
They're not ready yet.
then they're not ready yet. That's
Or
the thing.
then
Or
you
they
have a different
keep
conversation.
resisting, and which having a different conversation is
Then you have the conversation, why do you want to do it? What's your will?
Mhm.
If you're pushing yourself towards it, it's not the right why.
Mhm.
Okay? So you should, whenever you're doing something, it should be a pull power. It should pull motivation, not a push motivation.
Mhm.
And I think where you get burned out is when you have a push motivation towards something.
Mhm.
For example, it could be writing an essay. If you're pushing yourself to write an essay, every now and then that's needed. Yeah, completely get that, but it never lasts.
Mhm.
You need to have that meditative state back, going back, why am I doing this? What was the reason why I signed up for this? These are the reasons why. And now all of a sudden you feel yourself pulled towards writing that essay versus pushed towards writing that essay.
Mhm.
Because your why is strong enough. Trying to get somebody to take massive action and their why isn't strong enough, it's not going to happen.
Mhm.
It's simply not going to happen. If your why isn't strong enough, you're not going to take action. Or you take mediocre action. You need to figure out your why. And the deeper you get your why, the better it becomes.
Mhm.
I need to remember that why over and over and over, and the action will start to happen. Then there's the other people who've got that why already, who's got amazing whys, but then they fail and going, I've never done this before. If I've never done this before, it's incredibly scary. I don't even know where to start. I don't have the skill sets yet.
Mhm.
And that's completely, then you kind of do a little bit of handholding. Let's take 5 steps right now. What are the things you can do right now that could get you there? I could do, I don't know, work out. How would you work out? I would go to the gym. When would you go to the gym? Tomorrow. What time would you go to the gym? Because you start creating your goals, and instead of making them really fluffy, you
Mhm.
make them really direct and precise. You go, 10 a.m., I'm going to the gym. What are you going to wear? I'm going to wear these shoes, these pants, and this shirt. Okay, cool. Awesome, that sounds phenomenal. So 10 o'clock tomorrow, you're doing it. Yep. What are you doing right now? Nothing? Let's go for a jog right now.
Mhm.
And they've just taken action, and all of a sudden, the shift will happen. So the chance of them going to tomorrow at 10 a.m. is so much more because they've already taken action towards it.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a different conversation, but somebody needs to have that pain first in order to have that entire push through.
Mhm.
And then there'll be more pains that come, but you'll be in a different headspace, and that's what I mean. Once you start to take that leap, different challenges will pop up, and the challenges will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and that's all in terms of following your dreams, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Not just your dreams. I mean, your dreams is it's a wanky way of looking at it. I think it's more of the way you view your world, or the way you imagine your world to be.
Mhm.
So when we grow up, we have this view of a world where we think our lives should plan out in one way or another. We kind of, and sometimes it can be really unrealistic. We can imagine that we're on a boat all day long and we're just sipping champagnes because we're grown up now and we can do extra. That's probably a little bit more unrealistic, but you could make that into a realistic real world. If that doesn't match up with where you're currently at, change it. Either accept it or change it.
Mm-hmm. And that's where overcoming that pain comes in. Because sometimes you're going to have to face things that you kept putting off, whether they be emotional, physical, or just, getting your regular stuff done. And until you go through the pain of doing those things, you're not going to be happy. And it just takes responsibility to take that. And then, as you said, in terms of having, like, you love to have those conversations with those people who are so systemized and locked up, because you have been there and you can see and it's predictable and you know how to bring it out. I would only like being there just because it's easier, right? It's easier to bring them out. But it's harder for even though it's easier for them to get a realization, it's harder to get them to become conscious of it and to act upon it. I find that's the hardest part, is that often you'll go through that, somebody will come up with the realization and you'll be standing there going, you just said it. But even that might not be enough.
It's not enough. It has to be action.
It has to be action.
It absolutely has to be action. Whatever realization you have, it has to be into action.
So they can't just say, oh yeah, I see how now when I say these words it affects that person.
Okay, it's still just a thought.
Until they actually go and say, next time they're not going to say those words to that person in a different way. They're going to reframe it. Or when it comes to something that's come up about, am I going to take these steps to achieve this goal? Here's the next step to writing this podcast, let's say. I need to go buy some tools. So are you going to do that? Sure. When? Just like you were saying.
Specific. It's going to be really specific. But one thing that works really quickly is write it down. If you write things down, that's the first action already. You're taking an action about actions, which is one of the best things you can do anyway. If you just have a realization in your thought, it's not action until you've actually put something into the reality. Versus just talking. We can all talk about we're going to change the world, we're going to buy a massive yacht tomorrow, and I'm somehow going to do it. It's not going to happen. You got to take it into action. And the action is, write it down. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And have a couple of action plans. Not just one. Have 3, 4, 5, 6 for that one realization. Because that'll cement it. Once you got it cemented, you'll start to have momentum. And we can just look at James and the momentum he's gotten.
It's been like 4 weeks.
It's been 4 weeks and holy
it's been like a
shit.
month. It's got a whole setup. Yeah.